For some reason, it seems like the press has a vendetta against black athletes. Associate Professor of Strategic Communication at University of Missouri, Cynthia Frisbee, found that 66% of crime stories and 70% of domestic abuse stories in sports involve black athletes, and that 53% of stories involving black athletes had a negative tone in them. We see this time and time again in sports articles, sports news segments, on television, documentaries, and more from some of our favorite sports media outlets and outside news outlets as well. Black athletes are very aware of the press's antics and have actively tried to find ways to circumnavigate the foolishness the media oftentimes presents to them. Probably the most common way black athletes try to avoid the traps the press lays down for them is by being very outspoken. Take Richard Sherman, for example. In the early to mid 2010s, Richard was considered one of, if not the best corners at that time. He was a very smart and aggressive player that led one of the greatest defenses of all time, the Legion of Boom. Sherman was also a competitor and passionate about the game of football. Despite being one of the best players in the NFL, sports media focused more on his talking than his walking. They would compare him to corners near his caliber that weren't as known for much talking and somehow found a reason to call them a better player and even person than Richard Sherman just because they weren't as vocal. Throughout his prime, Richard Sherman was in a dogfight with the press. They always tried to trip him up and attack his character, but he'd argue back with statistics, research, and did his best to be extremely outspoken. He would even mention that he was an all-pro Stanford graduate, as he should be able to brag because he has a degree and clutch moments to back his claims. Another way to approach it is to give the media as little information as possible. Around the same time and in the same place, Marshawn Lynch was considered one of the best running backs in the NFL. His aggression, his power, and tenacity on the field was admired by all. He was certainly a character on the field, but off the field, he was a very quiet person. After games, when it was time to address a press, he gave little to nothing to work with. He might say a phrase like,
"I'm just about that action, boss."
Or,
"Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined."
Or,
"I'm thankful."
Or, anything and everything to give the media absolutely nothing. Even though Richard and Marshawn approached the media two different ways, the results were both similar. They were called jerks, assholes, and worst of all, thugs. After Richard Sherman's clutch pass breakup versus Michael Crabtree in the 49ers, his post-game interview was heartfelt and passionate, but media hated it and called him a thug. On media day before the Super Bowl, Marshawn did not want to talk to the media. Of course, they didn't like it and started calling him names, asking why he was a jerk. Richard Sherman said it best. Thug is another way of saying the N-word. There have been other ways athletes try to handle the media, but they receive the same bad press. So, logically, you would think that the next step would be to avoid the press altogether. Naomi Osaka announced that she would not speak to the press. She stated, "Hope you're all doing well. I'm writing this to say I'm not going to do any press at the Roland Garros. I've often felt that people have no regard for athletes' mental health, and this rings very true whenever I see a press conference or partake in one. We're often sat there and asked questions that we've been asked multiple times before, or asked questions that bring doubt into our minds. I believe that whole situation is kicking a person while they're down, and I don't understand the reasoning behind it. Me not doing press is nothing personal to the tournament, and a couple journalists have interviewed me since I was young, so I have a very friendly relationship with most of them. However, if the organizations think that they can just keep saying, do press or you're going to be fine, and continue to ignore the mental health of the athletes that are the centerpiece of their corporation, then I just gotta laugh. Anyways, I hope the considerable amount that I get fined for this will go towards a mental health charity. Hugs and kisses, peace, heart emoji." Naomi had much support in her decision, not to talk to the press and put her mental health first. But the French Open did not support this decision at all. And as a matter of fact, they tried to fine Naomi for trying to keep her mental sane and healthy. Instead of submitting to the pressure of the French Open, Naomi Osaka decided to bow out of the tournament gracefully. She stated, "Hey everyone, this isn't a situation I ever imagined or intended when I posted a few days ago. I think now the best thing for the tournament, the other players, and my well-being is that I withdraw so that everyone can get back to focusing on the tennis going on in Paris. I never wanted to be a distraction, and I accept that my timing was not ideal and my message could have been clearer. More importantly, I would never trivialize mental health or use the term lightly. The truth is that I have suffered long bouts of depression since the US Open in 2018, and I have had a really hard time coping with that. Anyone that knows me knows I'm introverted, and anyone that has seen me at tournaments will notice that I'm often wearing headphones as that helps dull my social anxiety. Though Tennis Press has always been kind to me, and I want to apologize especially to all the cool journalists who I may have hurt, I am not a natural public speaker and get huge waves of anxiety before I speak to the world's media. I get really nervous and find it stressful to always try to engage and give you the best answers I can. So here in Paris, I was already feeling vulnerable and anxious, so I thought it was better to exercise self-care and skip the press conferences. I announced it preemptively because I do feel like the rules are quite outdated in parts, and I wanted to highlight that. I wrote privately to the tournament apologizing, saying that I would be more than happy to speak with them after the tournament, as the slams are intense. I'm going to take some time away from the court now, but when the time is right, I really want to work with the tour to discuss ways we can make things better for the players, press, and fans. Anyways, hope you're all doing well and staying safe. Love you guys. I'll see you when I see you. Heart emoji. For whatever reason, media continues to harass black athletes more often than other races and ethnicities. Some sports are predominantly black, therefore more stories and coverage on black athletes happen, but it shouldn't be as negative as it is. It's mentally draining, and I'm sure it sucks all the fun out of playing sports. Negative press hurts their character, their reputation, their pockets, and ultimately their careers and mental health. The First Amendment protects the freedom of press, but that freedom shouldn't come at the expense of black athletes' mental health. And this is TDTV, where you get your entertainment, education, and advocacy from, because we are trying to have everybody understand everyone so that all have equal opportunities to shoot for the stars. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.